Welcome to the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Kulig, and this is the 50th episode. Man, if you told me a little more than 18 months ago that I was going to start a podcast and do over 50 episodes and stick with it, even though there's been some breaks. I admit that. There's been some breaks in the process. But for me to say that back then, I'd tell you you're nuts. Tell you you're absolutely nuts. I'm not a show host. I'm not doing that. But here we are, 50 episodes in, and kind of documenting the journey. That's really what this is all about. As it stands right now, 796 tunes published. So just shy of 800. There's been a bit of a stall. Part of that is ideation. Part of that is getting some other things out of the way, getting some administrative things in play, starting down a path of developing an educational aspect of what I'm doing here. I've talked about this since the first of the year, where I've been very interested in exploring and finding solutions to some of the challenges that people have using royalty-free music, specifically in the spaces of social media. So there's been a lot of emailing back and forth with some of my affiliates, some of my associated composers that have had some real challenges on some of these platforms, specifically on the Spotify platform with people that have podcasts that use music in it. And the challenge there is that there's just kind of an unmoving and unchanging standard that the podcasts are not a music dissemination device. And from a high level 1,000-foot corporate perspective, I get that 1,000%. I get it 1,000%. It doesn't make sense from that perspective. However, how much does music enrich and help a podcast? Specifically a podcast that's got exciting things in it, like a D&D podcast where, for 45 minutes to an hour you have, or more, you have a battle and you need some kind of sonic narrative and background to help you with that. Or you have like a tavern scene where you've got people exploring the human interactions with, I say human, a lot of times in D&D, there's non-human characters that speak English. You have beings interacting in an environment, and you create this musical background that helps enhance the storytelling and enhance the entire listener experience. And to say that that's being used as a dissemination device and kind of alter the ability of the creator to enhance it with that sonic narrative is it's a real bummer, man. I feel like if there isn't some system put in place, not unlike the YouTube Content ID system on Spotify, you're going to find creators drifting away from that platform, because if you're going to constrict them and restrict them from how they can express themselves, they're going to find a place where they can. And I mean, that's a challenge with Spotify. Personally, in my publishing journey and career, I published to Spotify. I was really excited when my music was finally on there, and I'm still excited to have a relationship with and my stuff on there. I know that based on choices I've made recently with the podcast, it's probably no longer going to be published there because they won't take video. They won't do what other platforms do. Like Amazon podcasts Podbean will publish to that platform. Amazon doesn't want the video form of it, so it strips the audio from it and it takes everything else. Whereas Apple Podcasts, they just take this 4K video, which is amazing, because you can go to Apple Podcasts right now and watch anything I've done that I've published as a video, and it's great. So, to back up a little bit, some of the purists out there, the original podcasters and purists, look at it as an audio only, mechanism for delivering a show and content. But that's been evolving into more of a video based thing the last couple years. And for me, it's just too much time. It's too much time to go and publish both an audio only and a video version of it. And now I have two things posted on a site, like on YouTube. YouTube would get the audio only with a static image and, the audio visualizer, and then it would have the video version. Then people don't know what to watch. And if, I just don't like confusing my audience. I like to try to keep it as succinct and direct as possible. I mean, my website redesign was a hat off to that. Is basically I'm trying to make things as easy and as navigable as possible. And I don't like doing double work. So that's part of the journey. Part of the journey is going to be creating a separate channel specifically to help people navigate systems and then tie it back together. That's all in flux right now. I'm still developing some of the early content for it, but expect some updates in the next several weeks as this stuff comes to fruition. And I'd love the feedback. Love to get your take on the value that it's adding or adding, or if there's something that I'm missing. I'd love it. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to help guide community and build community and help you guys as much as possible. This could be an 800 song published episode. It might as well be. 4 songs is nothing. I could publish them now live while we're talking if I had to. I have enough songs in the tank that I could finish the mastering on in real time and publish those. So let's talk about a journey to 800. 800 tunes. It's a lot of tunes. It's a lot of songs. It's a lot of ideas. And I still have a hard drive of close to 200 ideations that I need to refine, hone, and get published out there before the end of the year. Hopefully. I found myself in this space recently, though, and the challenge I have is the journey versus the very, very ambitious goals versus quality. I've kind of given myself a little bit of pause the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Multiple reasons. I've had some personal life things, not bad, just personal life things get in the way that have restricted my ability to focus as much on the creative process and having to focus a little more on the admin and ideation and kind of 1,000-foot developmental things. But I think it's important in any craft to remind yourself that, you can't force ideas. You can force yourself to sit down and, like I do with the Monday Fridays, and create up to 5 ideas or more, and try not to pass judgment on myself or self-edit while I'm doing that process, and get into flow and get a couple ideas in the midst of flow that are really cool ideas. But I'm in this weird, just mellow, meditative space. I mean, I'm literally saying what I should be doing. Meditated tunes, banks, pads, non-evolving, podcast beds, horror beds, that kind of thing. And I am actually working on that right now. So, but it's really easy for one thing to blend into the other when you're not making things that are super complex. So I'm just taking a little pause, a little time to reflect, self-reflect, and allow the inspiration to come. And I'm doing that also through some experiential things. My mother wanted to go to see Robin Spielberg. If you don't know who she is a very established contemporary pianist, and she makes some amazing piano tunes. Recently saw her up at the Strauss Center in Tampa, and beautiful little 1.5 hour concert with a little Q&A at the end of it. Wonderful lady, very talented, very inspiring. The way she plays and the passages that she creates and the type of music that she creates is at times melancholy, at times uplifting, at times very peaceful and serene, and tons of emotion in it. Tons of emotion the way that she plays. And quite honestly, Robin, you inspired me. You inspired me seeing you the other night, and I've got some ideas. I think I actually want to do a piano album this year because of it. And I think I'm going to be listening to some of your tracks, so they're going to be the inspiration. Your work is going to be the inspiration for a piano album. I think, before the end of the year. If it's not published, it'll be published sometime first quarter next year, probably. But some really cool stuff. She's an artist that specifically started livening up her shows by pausing in between the songs and explaining the title and explaining the reason for the song and what made the song come to be. And she explained that yesterday when I went to the show, and explained how she started adding visualizations and the explanations in between. It's a sign of an artist that is constantly evolving and constantly adjusting to the needs and the desires of her audience. Not only that, she does periodic live streams and she's active on social media. So an inspiration and another person to follow in the footsteps of and have some guidance with, even remotely, just as an observer. So thanks, Robin. Appreciate your inspiration and appreciate all your hard work and your art in general. So very cool stuff. But we're in the middle of, well, not really the middle. We're towards the end of May. It's May 21st as I'm recording this, and we'll likely publish it today or tomorrow. We've got a good start, a strong start to the year, having published almost, 75 tunes so far this year. And I'm very excited. Later this year, I anticipate getting into some of my other genres that people really like. My D&D/orchestral music. I have something brewing in here, but again, I'm in this weird space right now where complex modes and complex melodies that juxtapose against some really neat chord progressions built through orchestration. I just don't feel like my brain or my soul is there right now. I feel like it needs to do something else, and I don't think I've sit still long enough recently to let that come in. So I may do like a long weekend soon. I did this thing years ago where I did like I tried to do like a 24-hour album, and it ended up being like a Monday, Friday, but like on steroids. Well, more like crack. It was like I just kept coming up with all these weird things. Towards the end of the day, I had like the most bizarre tracks coming out of me. That might be a fun experiment, and then do a compilation with all the things that I came up with over that 24-hour period. Don't necessarily have to refine all those things, but it could be an album that's like a kitchen sink type of thing where I literally come away from it being like, this is what happens when you stay up for 24 hours and create the whole time. Obviously I'd have to eat and take some breaks for the bathroom and stuff, but you know what I mean. But that might be a fun experiment. That might expand me a little bit creatively. But experience, I was advised many years ago that when you're in the creative process and doing things, outside experience that has little to nothing to do with your creative process and what you create, are important experiences to have, because what it does is it guides your mind and your body and your soul to experience new things and have a new perspective on your life as a whole, and then come out of that literally being able to bring a different perspective to something that you've been trying to work on for a while, and maybe you hit a wall. And sometimes you hit a wall because, well, you fall into patterns. It's the same reason that I switch genres so often. I find that if I just stuck to horror, I would get stuck into a pattern with horror where I just write the same song over and over and over and over again. But when I drift away into lo-fi, drift into 8-bit video game music, orchestrations, folk music, and then come back to horror, well, something magical happens. Something's changed in my mind and my soul and who I am, and I get to bring a different perspective. If you go back and listen to a bunch of my different horror albums, you'll hear differences, and that has a lot to do with it. In fact, one genre influences the other and vice versa. I feel like some of my cyberpunk stuff is really dark, because I'm trying to create this like dystopian future, and it has a little horror suspense element into it. But then I do some industrial stuff And that's got like some cyberpunk feel to it, where it's got some rhythmic elements to it, because industrial, you think, first thing I think of is some manufacturing facility. And that recent album was a fun experiment. Probably return to that again in the future. I didn't really do a lot with electric guitars and like metal guitars in it, so I might make one that's a little more hard hitting. But that's fun. That's a fun thing, is to like almost create your own genres. In the process of jumping around to all these genres, you create these weird mixes that blur the lines, and it's really neat. I can understand why the band Mr. Bungle must have been so much fun to be in. Or maybe it was excruciating, because those guys were, they were playing songs that had a billion different genres in it. And that first album was amazing. If you don't know the band, some of the songs may or may not be listenable to you, depending upon what your tolerance is for obscure styles. I mean, they have, Mike Patton has a band. Faith No More is who, most of the members of Faith No More and Mr. Bungle. But some of the members also did a band called Phantomaz, and that one's super heavy, super experimental. And some of the songs I've heard from that are virtually unlistenable. It's really like pushing the lines of like noise music and stuff. And, where it has its place artistically, I think it gnaws at me in a way that I can't enjoy it. But I appreciate it as a form of art. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't like to pass judgment on anything, because every form of art and every form of creation has its place. It's just some have a much more limited audience potential than others, because it is very hard to access. Its accessibility is very low. It's very low. The level's very low, at least in my mind's eye. But again, that's me. There's styles of music that I used to be into in high school that I've all but abandoned at this point. And partially because, I don't know, I think maybe it was a time of my life, or maybe it's a generational thing. I miss arena rock bands. And one of the recent discussions I had on a recent podcast, or a recent discussion I had, basically alludes to the fact that may never come back. It's like a time in history, in musical history, kind of like the 50s and 60s music. People do it as like a nostalgia, or even worse, is like a joke, to do kind of like an homage. Homage is more respectful. An homage is more, you're doing it as a way to celebrate a style. But there's other times where people do look backs to old styles, and they're kind of poking fun at it or whatever, which I guess is art too. But that may have been, the rise of those arena rocks, where like these bands like Metallica, and Metallica can still do it. That's a bad example. They still sell out arenas. But when those guys stop playing, when the Rolling Stones stop playing, when, other big bands that can still carry an arena that big stop playing, what happens? Who's going to sell out a freaking football stadium? Like, because that era of music might be over, with the exception of pop. It's interesting. It's very interesting. And then AI, of course, and what's going to happen with that. Again, I'm still of the mindset that my core is going to stay pure, with the exception of maybe the occasional melody ideation here and there. But I don't want to take something from Sora, or Suno rather, and create an entire song out of it and publish that as my own. I feel like that's inauthentic to who I am. Part of the whole reason I do this is because I've had this musical tapestry burning through my brain since I can remember, since I was too young to know I wanted to play an instrument or explore music at all. And I think it would be a disservice to whatever that is, whether I'm channeling it from the universe, whether I'm getting really heady with it, but whatever. Like, I don't really know where it comes from half the time. I just know that I hear a melody in my head, and I find a way to emulate it in such a fashion that I groove on it, and I hope that you guys do too. So that's really the rest of the year is, if you go to my Patreon, you can see some of the styles I'm looking at. I want to do some Christmas tunes again. I may do some covers again of public domain stuff, but also some original Christmassy sounding things that are kind of generic but unique to me, my style. Some spooky Halloween, not just horror, but like stuff that feels like an 8-year-old's not going to be hiding under a bed over, that kind of thing. And exploring some other styles I've had to put aside for a little while. I did that with the Middle East album, Dunescapes, this first and second quarter this year. And that was a lot of fun. There's a couple tracks on there in particular that I felt resonated with me as I was creating them. I mean, they all do. I say that, but you always have your favorites as a composer. There's times that I feel like I've really done something technical on a level that I'm like, yeah, that's the tune. That's the tune that's going to track. Never does. Well, sometimes it does. But what people enjoy and what people like, I can't control. I just got to get you as much of it as possible and see what you guys dig. But I've got analytics going now. That's a new thing. I've implemented analytics on the site, so I know where people are coming from, what they are liking, where they get hung up on the site, so I can make some improvements over the course of this year with that, and streamline things there. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about music packs. I might have brought this up in a recent podcast, but if I haven't, I want to tell you about it. Anybody that uses a bulk of my work, I'm probably going to do some music packs and sell some packs to simplify people's ability to download like whole groupings of my stuff. So what I'll likely do is take an aggregate of like all the horror, all the electronic, all the orchestrations, stuff like that, and then make these, 5 or 6 different packs and just make these zip files that are going to be available, and probably sell it through like a Bandcamp or some site that has a checkout system where you get them in one big bulk and you're done. And I think that'll add some value to some people. I've had a couple of people recently tell me like, oh yeah, I'd like to just grab the whole site, blah, blah. Like that might be another thing too. Like all the music, just do like all the music as of, middle to 2025, just bulk everything together, have subfolders. I'll have it organized so it's easy to navigate. But yeah, I'm thinking about doing that. And I got a couple other projects on the horizon as well to help me be a little bit more consistent with social media again and everything too. Part of that was like I said, I had some personal life events, nothing major, just, every once in a while you have to get your house in order and get organized with certain things. And it's kind of pushed me from being as consistent with social media, but I'm recommitting to that over the course of the next couple weeks. And you'll see the fruits of that labor. Also, I had one of the hiccups I had recently was I did a podcast episode. I was going to have some micro content from using the Riverside platform, but something happened in my recording process and I ended up having to go through and do a ticket. Ultimately, I got the export and I'll be able to get that episode published. But, life happens. You don't always know that the thing that you expect to go through smoothly and easily doesn't always happen. So you have to roll with the punches and pivot. That's the story of my life. It's like have it on my gravestone. What did Tim do when life got in the way? I pivoted, found a new path, pivoted, and just found a path towards my goal again. And that's what you should do too. You absolutely should do that. You shouldn't just because you get pushed down a few times, you don't give up. You just keep moving forward in any way you can, even if it's a couple small moves every day. Just keep pushing along, man. But this is 50 episodes. This is the first of many 50s, I think, because this journey's nowhere near its end, because I don't think I have it in me to stop creating music ever. I think I'll be working in this capacity, in this sense, for the rest of my life. So you're the willing or unwitting recipients of that, however you want to define that. But I look forward to the journey of the next 4, 5, 10, 20 years of this and beyond. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being here for 50 episodes. I hope you're here for another 50 plus. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Take care, guys.